Hello, my name is Dr. Robert Leahy, and I'm the author of the book, If Only Finding Freedom from Regret. I got interested in the topic of regret because a lot of people I know personally, my patients, and throughout the clinical literature, I can see that regret is a key thing in depression and anxiety. But I wanted to look at it from a point of view of a cognitive behavior therapist and how we can help people overcome getting stuck in regret. So one distinction I make in the book is the difference between productive and unproductive regret. Productive regret is something that helps you. For example, I can anticipate that if I eat spicy food, that I might have indigestion and not be able to sleep. So productive regret can help me avoid making problematic decisions and avoiding outcomes that are problematic. Unproductive regret, though, is different. It's an awareness that I've made a mistake, unproductive regret. But what it also does is it leads me to criticize myself, label myself as a failure or an idiot. And it also leads me to ruminate and dwell on what I did as opposed to move on. And in the book, I describe how we can use regret in a productive way to make better decisions or to deal with outcomes. In other words, self-correction, learning, growth, and so forth, and how to avoid the self-criticism and the rumination that often accompanies regret about things we did or we did not do. Second, there are a lot of things that predispose people toward unproductive regret, toward dwelling and criticizing and not being satisfied, not being able to move on. One factor is the intolerance of mixed feelings. And all decisions involve mixed feelings. I mean, the word decision in Latin actually means to cut away from. So some people who think, well, I have mixed feelings about making this decision to move, to, let's say, make a commitment, everybody has mixed feelings. No matter what the outcome is going to be, it's not going to be you're going to be happy all the time and satisfied. And so a lot of this is something that people often have this kind of emotional perfectionism that I should feel 100% about the outcome. I talk about styles of thinking, maximizing versus satisfying, where the maximizer is somebody who wants the absolute very best. And they think, if I go for the very best, I won't regret it. But the research actually shows that people who have this maximizing style of thinking take longer to make decisions, require more information, and ultimately are less satisfied with the outcome, even if the outcome is objectively better than the outcome that somebody else has. Satisfiers, on the other hand, are willing to be satisfied with less than the very best. They take less time to make decisions, and they're able to cope with the outcome, even if it's not as good as the outcome that the maximizer has. So the question is your maximizing mindset making it difficult for you to live in the real world, or are you trying to live in an ideal world? And related to this is what I call existential perfectionism, where we have this idea that our life should be fulfilling and exciting, and I should be doing the greatest things in the world, and my partner should be the most wonderful, my relationships should be great. This is a very unrealistic myth that many of us have, and I think a lot of it is fed by social media and how we compare ourselves to people we really don't know. Another factor that leads to unproductive regret is the tendency to ruminate and to dwell on things. And we often see this with people who are prone to depression. So the rumination mindset, the rumination style of thinking, the perseverating and continuing focus on over and over and over actually makes people more prone to depression. And once they become depressed, they stay in their depression because it makes sense, because if you're ruminating, you're constantly focusing on the negative and you're not getting out and living your real life in the real world. And finally, another factor that I discuss in the book that leads people to having a lot of regret is their lack of flexibility. And I describe flexibility in terms of relative preferences. So if you think that I can only accept one outcome, then you're more likely to have regret if you don't get exactly what you want. So relative preferences is the ability to have flexible preferences, to be able to say, I can be satisfied with these other things, I can change my expectations. And what's interesting is that some people say, well, how could I change my expectation? How can I change my expectation? But the fact is that an expectation is simply a thought. So for example, here in New York City on 3rd Avenue, there are signs that have the schedule for the bus. It's going to come at 9:12 and 9:24 and 9:36. That's an expectation. But the only people who actually look at that schedule are tourists. People from New York City don't look at the schedule because they know that it's an unrealistic expectation. So you can always change your expectation to match reality, which is a way of living in the real world, and it helps you deal with coping and accepting and making the best and moving on, rather than getting stuck in the demand that things have to be exactly as you expected them to be. So thank you for listening, and I hope you get the chance to read the book, and I hope it's helpful.